Welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, my name is Kat and I've been living in Chiang Mai since 2019. If you've ever been considering moving to Chiang Mai, keep watching this video. In this video, I'm going to break down the important things that you need to know and have prepared before you move your life abroad to Thailand. So probably the most important in my opinion is if you plan to live in Chiang Mai long term, you need to have a proper visa that will legally allow you to stay here. And I did another video on this comparing the DTV, so the Destination Thailand visa, which is also known as the Digital Nomad 5-year multiple entry visa, and the Education visa. So if you haven't watched that video already, check it out. I'll put it in the description as well. But those are the two that I recommend looking into if you're wanting to stay in Thailand or Chiang Mai specifically long term. So a lot of people have been coming in on tourist visas, and while in the past that hasn't been an issue, especially maybe you just want to stay here for 6 months, but if you really do plan to make Chiang Mai your long-term home, coming in on a tourist visa and doing border runs every few months is not going to work. Especially right now, they're starting to crack down on people that are coming into Thailand constantly on tourist visas over long periods of time. There's a lot of laws and regulations that are changing with immigration, especially with the Destination Thailand visa, which again is a 5-year multiple entry visa. And so there's a lot of confusion with what that looks like, but I would recommend finding either if you can't do the DTV and maybe you can't meet the requirements for that, the education visa would be my second best suggestion. The education visa, again, is a 1-year visa that has to be renewed every year with usually a maximum of 3 years if you're doing it for Thai language. And I'm not going to go into the details of that. I'll put the video here that you can watch in more detail, but visas are very important, and I think it's really overlooked when people are planning their move to Chiang Mai because people are focused on cost of living and finding a condo, but you legally have to have a proper visa to stay here long term, so don't forget. The second thing that I wanted to talk about is income. So another thing that I also see pretty often is people will come here on savings and say, I'll just figure it out. And then they run out of savings and don't figure it out and are forced to go back home. I'm not saying that's the case for everyone. Some people, it does work out. They travel on their savings and then they find, an online remote job or they find some other source of income. This is something I recommend having in place before you move to Thailand because I have seen firsthand the stress and anxiety of knowing that your savings is running out and not having a backup plan. And so, maybe you invest, maybe you have an online remote job, maybe you even want to teach out here. So that's another thing. There are options to work in Thailand if you, let's say, you don't have that online remote job. It's pretty common for foreigners to work in Thailand as teachers or at international schools in some capacity. Maybe you're an admin. I was a family counselor before, so there are options, but I would say working in a school is one of the most common ways that foreigners can get work visas here. There are some nonprofits and there are some small marketing agencies that I have seen hire foreigners, but I would say it's not as common. And a lot of the jobs and positions here are saved for Thai citizens. The next thing is cost of living. Again, this is one of the most commonly asked questions. I also recorded a video this year, an updated cost of living. I'll put that again in the description if you want to watch that in more depth. I would say cost of living obviously is important. You need to figure out a budget, know how much income you need per month, but it's hard to really give a number for that, like I say in all my videos, because everyone's lifestyle is different. Everyone's budget is different. Everyone's income is different. Maybe you have kids, maybe you have pets. There's a lot of other factors to consider. And so to really get a good idea of the cost of living, I would say have a baseline. You've watched all these videos, have a baseline, but when you actually get to Chiang Mai is when you'll be able to feel it out for yourself. I'm spending quite a lot of money on food and cafes because I'm working at cafes and that's just something that I prefer. But maybe some other people might want to cook at home. And so those are things to take into consideration. But you see these videos of cost of living that blow up on social media because people are really interested. They want to know, can I live on this amount in Thailand or in Chiang Mai? But again, it's hard to give that exact number. So I would say just create a baseline. And then when you arrive here, fill it out and see what works for you. I think if you have an idea, in terms of rent and, your phone bills and health insurance and all of those things, I think that would give you a good start. And then when you actually move here, you can, social things. Do you want to go out to bars and hang out with friends? Do you want a gym membership? So those are things to include, but again, I wouldn't say is the most important. Along the lines of cost of living, I would recommend to either get a Charles Schwab account or a Wise account. There's been a lot of confusion with foreigners being able to open bank accounts here. A few years ago, especially when I first moved here in 2019, 2020, it was a lot more fluid in terms of them allowing foreigners to open bank accounts on education visas or different things like that. But now it's very, very strict. And so even if you're on, let's say, the 5-year destination Thailand visa, they're not allowing you to open a bank account. Even I think on education visas, you're not allowed either. So the best bet would to be get a Charles Schwab card because they reimburse ATM fees. So you can go to the ATM, pull out money for your rent, and then at the end of the month, whatever the fees are, Schwab will reimburse you for that. You can also do Wise. I find that Wise account, when I'm transferring, for me, I have a Thai bank account, but I find that transfers from Wise, the fees are a lot smaller than if I was to pull from the ATM, for example. But again, it depends how much you're pulling, where the money is going, etc. But I would say having a Charles Schwab account and then a Wise account as well, just as a backup, because it is going to be difficult to open a bank account, if not impossible at the moment. The next thing is health insurance. And this is something that I harp about all the time, especially because I had an accident this year and had firsthand experience with using health insurance, so not travel insurance. I recommend having that set up, whether you do that before you leave. You can also do that here in Chiang Mai. I recommend also having a broker because when there are accidents or emergencies, for example, when I had my accident, it was so much easier to get in contact with the insurance company because I had a middleman that was helping me. And there's no extra fee to have a broker help you be that person. And the broker is actually who I signed up with my health insurance through. And so you can do that in Chiang Mai. But if you find a good company that is reputable and that you're able to do before you move to Chiang Mai, I recommend doing that. I also recommend not getting basic travel insurance. You can do that, temporarily while you're in the process of moving here, but I would say having proper health insurance is gonna protect you long term. So transportation, again, is another area that people have a lot of questions about. In Chiang Mai, you can use Grab, which is basically like Uber. They have motorbike Grab, they have car Grabs. If you need groceries delivered, you can do that on Grab. Help moving things or furniture or whatever it is, there's Grab. And the cost of using Grab here is much more affordable. So don't stress if you don't have an international license. Grab is here to help you get your way around the city. Along those same lines, if you are able to get your international driver's permit, I know AAA does this, there might be some other companies, I would recommend doing that. Let's say you want to rent a car, you have an international driver's permit, because that is something they're also cracking more down on. I saw just the other day, they've been going to the motorbike agencies and fining them for renting motorbikes and cars out to people who don't have proper licenses. So they're starting to become more strict in a lot of areas across the board in Thailand, especially with businesses here and motorbikes and bank accounts and people driving and all of those things. If you don't have your international driver's permit, I wouldn't stress about it. You can go to a school here and go through the proper training and process to get your Thai driver's license. So what to bring to Thailand? I wouldn't stress about it. I think a lot of people get worried about not having, similar products or being able to find similar things, but I have found that the majority of things that I thought I would never be able to find here, I can find. Maybe it's a different brand or maybe it's slightly different, but in general, I would say you can find mostly everything, or you can order things. We have Amazon, it's kind of limited, but we have Lazada, Shopee, and there's a lot of options for you to find things. I think for the first year, I remember having my family send me a lot of things because I was just very particular about certain things like makeup. But little did I know there was a Sephora in Bangkok. I ended up finding other alternatives to it, but I wouldn't stress about that. The only thing I would say is maybe if there's certain medications, most of them are available here, but maybe there's a certain ingredient that you're sensitive to and that you can't find in Thailand or is not available here. That's something I would look into, but I would say in general, you won't have a problem finding things. So when to move to Thailand, this can vary, but I would say avoid moving during burning season, which is around March and April. This past year, it actually wasn't too bad. It was bearable, but I know a lot of people are more sensitive to that, so I would avoid that time frame. I would also avoid high season, which is typically November, December, and January, just because it's a lot more busy here. It might be harder to find accommodation, or if you do plan to move during that time, just prep in advance. Maybe start reaching out to agents or looking in the Facebook groups or Facebook Marketplace in advance. I would say it's just really busy during that time. There's a lot of people here, and a lot of people are here for the Lantern Festival and all these different events that are happening during that time. It's winter here, so it's really good weather, and so I would just prepare in advance if you do plan to move during that time. So finding a condo and accommodation, I would say Facebook Marketplace is probably the most reliable in my experience. I know there are other companies and websites like Perfect Homes, DD Property, but I have probably had the best experience with Facebook Marketplace because you can connect to different agents. Maybe you find a place on there and it's similar to what you want, but you connect with the agent and they have other properties that they're connected with. Also, Facebook groups. I know there's a Chiang Mai Nomads Girls Facebook group that people will sometimes post, hey, I'm looking for a 1 bedroom from this, time frame. Do you know maybe someone's subletting? And so I would say that's a good place to start, but Facebook Marketplace for sure. And the agents are reliable. They will pick you up and drive you around and show you different condos at no cost. And so I would say Facebook Marketplace for sure is where you need to be. The other thing I wanted to say about finding condos is that if you have pets, because this is a question that I've gotten quite a lot in the past few months, if you have pets, it's going to be a lot harder to find condos. So I would recommend looking into houses. If you have a cat, it's kind of, people will sneak the cats into their condo. I would say if you have a dog, for example, it's most likely going to be a better fit to find a house. The owners just don't want the liability if there's damage to the house because of the dog. It depends on the owner, but I would say houses are probably going to be your best bet. The last area that I wanted to cover is building a community because, when you're moving abroad, maybe you're moving alone, you have no friends, you have no family. It's really important to have a social network of people that you can spend time with, that you can reach out to if you need things. I would say Facebook groups, especially the Chiang Mai Nomad Girls group, is a really good place to connect with people. They post a lot of events. There's a cafe recently, I think it's called Atika. I'll put the link in the description, but they started hosting different workshops. They even had like a Sunday morning cafe rave kind of thing. I'm not really into that music, but they have a lot of events and workshops and things always happening around the city. If you're a remote worker, I know Facebook in general, so not even just the Facebook group, but Facebook in general, if you click on events, it'll show you local events, and there's always something happening here. And so I would say that's a really good place to connect with people. Again, I always say if you have hobbies or skills or things that you like to do, so maybe you go hiking, maybe you're an artist, like to read books, so there's book clubs. Anything that you're interested in, there's probably an event or group that meets here. There's also a food group that they meet. I think they meet Sundays for lunch and they try different restaurants. So there's a lot of options for you. It's just a matter of going and finding them. So I would say Facebook. And I know everyone thinks Facebook is really outdated, but for people who travel and live abroad, Facebook is like, it's been my saving grace since I've lived in Chiang Mai and traveled to other countries. And so I would say that is also a good place to connect and find community as well. So that's all I have. I know that was a lot of information. It can be really overwhelming when you're trying to plan a move abroad, especially if you're doing it alone. So if you're interested in hopping on a call and you just want to pick my brain, you just want to ask questions, I offer one-on-one calls. I'll put the link in the description. But if you have just, minor questions, you can also email me and I'm happy to answer them. So if you haven't already, please like and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss out on any future videos, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye.